Right effort. So the last time we spoke, we talked about right livelihood, which is the fifth step on the Eightfold Path. So now we're at right effort, which is the sixth step of Eightfold Path. As we've said before, the Eightfold Path is not a path, and it's not steps. It is something that is done all together at the same time. You can't work on right livelihood without working on right effort, which actually, if you just think about those two things, right livelihood is how we make our living, and right effort is how much energy we put into doing those things, which makes our lives easier and less suffering filled. So, of course, you can't have right livelihood without right effort, or right mindfulness, or right speech, or right action. All of these things are interconnected, as are all things in the universe, according to Buddhism. So, right effort has four aspects to it. And the first aspect is to avoid greed, anger, and ignorance. Greed and anger we understand. We've spoken about these before. We don't want to be greedy, instead we want to be generous. We want to lessen our anger, and to do that we practice loving kindness. Ignorance, we haven't really spoken about. Ignorance is a word that's used a lot in Buddhism. It is believed that it is the complement or the opposite of wisdom. That when we are in our ignorance, we see things as separate. We don't see things as they truly are. And when we are in our wisdom, we see things as impermanent and interdependent. If we can see everything as those two things, then we are less likely to be frustrated with our lives. Because the fact is that if you honestly believe that everything is going to end, that no matter what situation you're in, no matter how bad it is, eventually there's an ending to it, you are less frustrated. If you believe that everything is interdependent, that means that you are because I am, which is Ubuntu in East African beliefs. You are because I am. Then you have this idea that everything is as it should be, and that's true. When we are working out of our ignorance and towards wisdom, we start to see these things. You can't have a flower without rain, for example. You can't have a street without street workers to build the street, and without someone who had the idea that a street would be an asset for this community in this place. So all of these things are interdependent. So when I get up and drive my car and go to work, everything that I've done on that street was dependent on so many people that I have never met. But honestly, I wouldn't have been able to get from my house to work without them. That's the wisdom part. The ignorance is believing that I get to work on my own effort just because I own a car and I can put gas in it. That's ignorant. The wisdom part is seeing that I still don't know how many people are involved with my getting to work in a car. There's car makers, there's gasoline providers. All of these people make it so that I can simply walk out of my door, hop in my vehicle, and go wherever I want to go. That's wisdom, coming up on wisdom. You can become more and more wise. You can see how spread out this is. It's an interwoven net that probably includes everyone in the universe if you could work it out that far. I am wise enough to know that I cannot. So that's the first and the third aspects of right effort. We're going to avoid greed, we're going to avoid anger, and we're going to avoid ignorance. The third aspect is we're going to cultivate their opposites, which are generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. The second aspect is we're going to catch ourselves when we are being greedy. And we're going to catch ourselves when we are being angry. And we're going to catch ourselves when we are thinking in an ignorant way. And we are going to then even increase our practice more of the things that are opposite of that. The opposite of greed is generosity. The opposite of anger is loving kindness, and the opposite of ignorance is wisdom. So when we are saying to ourselves, well, I did this by myself, you know, I put gas in my car, I bought the car, I insured the car, so apparently I am all it takes for me to get from my house to anywhere I want to go because I did these things. That's ignorant. When I see that I could not have even made the purchase of gasoline if someone hadn't have drove the gasoline truck to the gasoline provider and there hadn't have been a person there for me to give my money to. And by the way, if I hadn't had a job where I could even earn that money, all of these things are interconnected. I need all of these things just so I can get out of my... When I see that, I'm becoming more wise and I'm moving away from ignorance. So once again, just to wrap up, right effort has 4 aspects to them. They are, 1, to avoid greed, anger, and ignorance. 2, to catch ourselves when we are being greedy, angry, and ignorant. 3, to cultivate the opposites of greed, anger, and ignorance, which the opposites are generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. And 4, to increase our practice of loving kindness, generosity, and wisdom whenever we feel that we are being greedy, angry, or ignorant. Tomorrow we will discuss the next part of the Eightfold Path, which is right mindfulness. This is Kente Wisdom. Thank you for your attention.